start with the obvious, Pat. What's the Hepburn's situation?
Yeah, he's got a groin injury, and he's day to day.
What do you like about you turned over or Edwards took over the most of the point guard duties the other night. What do you like about the way Edwards handles the point? And
Well, I
things
mean,
that you-
we have 2 point guards on the floor all the time. Terrence can play on the ball, off the ball. He did a great job, stepping up for us and you know, leading us on the floor like all really good point guards do. That last 15 minutes of the game when Chucky went down.
Pat, what have you been able to learn about the severity of Chucky's injury since you guys got back to campus?
It's just it's day to day. Just seeing how he responds today and tomorrow. With some rest and treatment, and we'll go from there.
So will he be kind of like limited at practice today, obviously?
Yeah, I mean, we'll be smart, obviously, about what we do. It's about getting him to the jump circle healthy. So that's the focus of the next 2 days if he's able to go.
Pat, how pleased were you in that final 15 minutes where Chucky did have to go out to see Terrence and Javon kind of step up and take more on-ball responsibility and kind of excel the way they did?
Yeah, we just have a next man up mentality. Injuries occur throughout the course of a season. Obviously, we've had our fair share of those throughout the course of the year. Our guys have never nor will ever, blink an eye, and it's just next man up. And a lot of guys, step up when injuries occur, and they did that very, very well that last 15 minutes, everybody on the team.
And what have you seen from looking at film and just watching them play over the course of the season? What have you seen from this Miami team?
Yeah, I think they're toward the top of the league in terms of talent. From an offensive standpoint, they are extremely explosive. They are big, strong, physical, and athletic. Obviously, you guys know I always do numbers. No matter if we were playing, the 96 Bulls, I would call 23-23. So obviously, Zero is playing at an all-conference level. He's matchup nightmare. He's a freight train attacking the rim. He can score at all three levels. He's a very, very, very dangerous, explosive scorer. One is, has NBA tools as a post player. Physical, strong, smart, very good passer, good footwork, scores off both shoulders. Two is, kind of that mismatch nightmare as well. Inside, outside, shoots threes, attacks. Three is an extremely talented, freshman guard. 11 is a very explosive, attacking, scoring guard. 10 is similar to Zero in a lot of ways in his ability to attack and affect the game, in a lot of different ways. 99 is playing very, very well for him at the point. He's as fast as any guard in the entire league. They just have a lot of really dangerous parts. So we got to do a great job, of defending at a really high level. They're a very good rebounding team, so we got to be at our best with our blockouts and our ability to pursue the ball. They're versatile defensively. They can change. They can change in terms of their coverages, on-ball screens, off-ball screens. They do a good job of keeping you off balance. So our guys, obviously, like they always are, have our opponents 1,000,000% full attention. Quick turnarounds when you have these kind of Wednesday, Saturdays. Obviously, yesterday was a great prep day in terms of mental and film and things like that, and we'll ramp it up today in terms of our on-court stuff and hopefully be at our best tomorrow too.
You talked about the effort Kadir had last game. How much does his physicality and versatility help you guys out around the basket and on the defensive end of the floor?
Yeah, it's exactly what he is. He's extremely versatile, Kadir is, and can guard multiple positions, can play multiple positions. He's quick twitch, athletic. He can attack the rim. He's got a very high basketball IQ. His ability to pass the ball presents mismatch problems. And, he just plays really hard. He affects the game on the defensive end because of his activity, his effort, his length. He can block shots at the rim. And he's a great teammate. He's the type of guy like, Coach, what do you need me to do? Who you need me to guard? What position do you need me to play? And it's been a big boost to us since he's come back from injury.
Coach, I know you said Chucky's day-to-day, but how does it change if he's unable to go offensively and defensively, game plan-wise?
It's like I said, the next man up, obviously Chucky is our primary ball handler, but as I told you, we've played 2 point guards 98% of the minutes this year because Terrence and Chucky have been on the floor at the same time. Terrence was, essentially a point guard last year for James Madison, and obviously we know the magical season that they had. He scores when he needs to score. He distributes when he needs to distribute. He does what the game tells him. He can guard a bunch of different positions. So in terms of like point guard play, I feel great about what we get from Terrence, his decision making, his assist to turnover ratio, and obviously that would be the adjustment. But it's just he's day to day, and we don't know, and we're hoping things progress the right way, and he will play. But if he doesn't, everybody on the team will step up.
Pat Noah was back on the floor against Boston College. Your impression on how he did coming off of sitting out for a couple games?
Yeah,
and how you think he's doing?
Just that depth that he gives us. Obviously, he's a veteran player. He's a winner. It's hard, like when you get hurt and you sit out, and then kind of the rotation starts happening a certain way. And when you come back, it takes a game or two or several games, kind of like it did for Kadir. You guys were asking me the same questions about Kadir right when he came back. When you miss some significant time and you come back, it just takes you, a game to get back in rhythm. But he gave us really good minutes. He plays so hard all the time. He's big and versatile, and he's a very, very good rebounder. He just helps us on both ends of the floor, and he's going to be a big, big piece for us as we move toward the end of the season.
Yeah, this may be a difficult question to ask or to answer, but how close are Traore and Waterman to being back to normal, fully recovered, however you want to phrase it?
I mean, when the training staff says they can play, they can play. You know what I mean? It's I expect when those guys go on the floor, they run in the game so fast that if I had any hair on my head when they ran past me on the way to the scores table, it would like go in that direction. Fly in there and play their butt off and eat loose balls and be a great teammate, which is what they do all the time. So, those guys have logged a ton of minutes in college basketball. They're winning dudes, and they've been a major, major piece of the successful season we've had to this point, and they will be moving forward as well.
They're going to honor the 2005 Final Four team tomorrow. Was just wondering, thinking back on how much do you recall from that team, and then also will the guys from that team get to spend any time with the players here?
Yeah, no, I hope so. Man, the more our guys can be around, meet, interact with the great, great players and teams that have come before us is awesome. So, we're going to try to make that happen in terms of our guys getting a chance to see him and say hello and things like that. When I read up on that team, the makeup of the team, the way it was described by the teammates, by the players on the roster, and then by Coach Pitino in the things that I read. You wrote a great article about it, and it just talked about, how that team was gritty, right? And they were tough, and they didn't really have 9 stars and 12 stars and 5 stars and 6,000 stars. They just had winners, and they were tough, and they had a phenomenal camaraderie. And in so many ways, that reminds me a lot, or the way you describe that team is the way that you guys have heard me describe our team a lot. The power of the unit, the uncommon commitment to the guy next to you, the things that those guys would say, whether it's in the off season, how they came together, and I felt like our guys did this. Guy needed to go to the grocery store. Anybody on that team would take them there. Just how resilient and tough they were. Obviously, many guys on the team I don't know very well. I've gotten to know Larry O'Bannon really well just because, he's a part of the 25 Strong. He's, works here in development at University of Louisville Athletics. And, you just talk about the journey that team went on, how special it was. I have a weird connection to that team a little bit just because I was at Wake Forest as an assistant. That was 2005. That was Chris Paul's second year and last year at Wake Forest, and we were, a top 4-5 team in the country. We were kind of on track to be a number 1 seed. Got upset in the ACC tournament, and it bumped us to a number 2 seed. And that number 2 seed matched us up in the second round with arguably the hottest team in the United States of America at the time, and that was West Virginia. And we played West Virginia in one of the epic second-round games probably in the history of the league or of the tournament, or at least in the last 25 years. I want to say it went triple overtime, and it was gut-wrenching and heartbreaking because we had a team at Wake Forest that could have won a national title that year. And, a few games later, as we went home in West Virginia, advanced in the tournament, obviously they matched up with Louisville, and there's many people that say that was one of the guttiest. I think the way that Coach Pitino described that team is one of the toughest, grittiest teams he's ever coached. And for a guy that prides himself, not only prides himself, like every team he coaches is based on toughness and grit. And for him to say that was the toughest team he ever coached, that says something. And they end up matching up with West Virginia, who was the hottest team in the country and had that team on the ropes. And, gosh, when you talk about some of the great performances, great games in the history of Louisville, whether it was Never Nervous Purvis Ellison, late NCAA tournament magical performance. It's Louisville volleyball this year in the national semifinals. Like, it sounds to me like that was one of the epic games in the history of our program. And just being a coach on a staff of another team that could have been advancing, coulda, woulda, shoulda, right? But kind of cool to see that little connection. So I'm happy that team's being honored. It's so well deserved. This is such a storied and tradition-rich program. I've communicated with Coach Pitino this week a little bit. I sound like I'm name dropping. My new best friend, Rick Pitino, me and him just text all the time. Every time he texts me, I'm like, holy crap, I'm texting with Rick Pitino. But just acknowledge that, that team's being honored, and I'm the head coach here, and how much I respect the history and the pageantry of our program. And for those guys to be honored is awesome. And I hope the Yum Center, gives them the hugest, is that a word? The most huge, a very big ovation. Obviously Coach Pitino's in the middle of his season, so obviously he can't be here tomorrow, but I guarantee it, he's got something up his sleeve to make sure he's connected and a part of this great celebration, and I can't wait to see the Yum explode when that little piece gets thrown into it as well. So that was a really long answer. I just start reminiscing about old days and things like that. So I got to get back to work soon.
You touched a little bit on Terrence and how magical last season was for JMU and him. He said previously there was a point, I think around maybe before or after the North Carolina game, that you had a conversation with him about, we want to see the guy who was the talk of the country for a month. Do you remember that at all, and if he needed that confidence boost?
He mentioned that?
He did, yeah.
I remember saying something like that to him. You as a coach are always trying to push some buttons, and at one point in the season when, maybe he was struggling a little bit or maybe struggling with his confidence. It's hard for Terren to struggle with confidence because that dude oozes confidence, man. He wants the moment. He wants the ball. He wants the heat. He wants the smoke. He wants the rival fans. Like, whenever we're going into a place and we know it's going to be a nasty environment, and I talk about walking into the Lions' den, he gets that big old grin on his face with those dimples, and he loves that. So it was just one point in the season I was just like, let's see that dude again. And, he perks up like that. And I don't know if I had an effect on him. Every once in a while I do something right. So maybe I said something that fired him up a little bit. If that's the case, that's pretty cool.
Anything else for Coach Kelsey? All right, thank you.
All right, thanks.